Welcome. Settle in, get comfortable, and let the day drift away. Tonight, our bedtime story is one of strength, courage, obligation, and what it really means to be honorable. This is the story of Jaime Lannister. We're going back to the beginning, long before the name Kingslayer ever touched his tongue. In the year 266 after Aegon's conquest, in the high western tower of Casterly Rock, a boy was born with sunlight in his hair and a roar already in his throat. Jaime Lannister came second that day. He was born a twin, his sister entering the world first, and the order of their birth would become the order of his life. Jaime always after her, always choosing her before himself. Cersei arrived first, red-faced and furious, clutching his hand even in the womb. The midwives said they had never seen twins so perfectly matched. The same green eyes flecked with gold, the same defiant tilt of the chin. From the cradle, they were one soul in two bodies. When one cried, the other answered. When one laughed, the world seemed to laugh with them. Their mother, Joanna, used to call them her little lions. Their father, Tywin, simply called them assets. Casterly Rock itself was a kingdom beneath a mountain, endless gold veins glittering behind stone, the sound of the sunset sea crashing far below like a heartbeat. Servants moved in silence. Maesters spoke in measured tones. Everything was ordered, everything was perfect, everything was Lannister. Jaime learned early that beauty was currency. People smiled at him before they knew his name. Girls giggled behind fans at tourneys when he was barely tall enough to hold a practice sword. Boys wanted to be near him the way moths want flame. He discovered quickly that if he flashed the smile his mother gave him, almost anything could be forgiven. Cersei discovered the same thing, but she never forgave anyone. The two played their games in hidden passages and abandoned mineshafts deep under the rock. They invented secret languages. They swore blood oaths beneath the weirwood that somehow grew inside a cavern lit by torchlight. When they were 7, Cersei told him they would marry one day, the way the Targaryens did. Jaime thought that sounded splendid. He would be her knight and her king, and her everything. The Septors scolded them for holding hands too long, but children don't understand why some kinds of love are meant to stay buried. Then came the day everything tilted. Joanna Lannister died bringing their younger brother, Tyrion, into the world. The corridors that had once echoed with her laughter went quiet. Tywin Lannister closed like a portcullis. Cersei raged at the babe in the cradle. Jaime simply stopped shining quite so brightly. He did try, but the glow was muted somehow. It didn't come as naturally, as genuinely as before. Something essential had been carved out of the rock, and no amount of gold could fill the hollow. After that, there were only 3 children in the great castle, the Golden Twins and the monster. Tyrion reached for Jaime with tiny, malformed hands, and Jaime let him hold a finger. Cersei watched from doorways with winter in her eyes. Their father watched from higher windows, measuring worth the way a miser measures coin. But there were still bright years left. Jaime discovered swords the way other boys discover music. The blade felt like an extension of his arm, like it had been waiting for him. At 10, he was unhorsing squires twice his age. At 11, he rode in his first tourney and sent 3 grown knights into the dust. Lords started calling him the Lion Cub. Tywin started allowing the faintest curve of approval at the corner of his mouth. And somewhere in those years, a wandering knight of the Kingsguard came to Casterly Rock, Sir Harlan Grandison. Old and fat and half asleep under his white cloak. Jaime watched him yawn through a feast and thought, if that's what it takes to wear the white, I could do it blindfolded. He was 12 when he first saw Sir Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning, practicing at dawn in the yard. Dawn itself seemed dimmer than the blade in Arthur's hands. Jaime stood frozen, barefoot on cold stone, and understood for the first time that there were heights beyond heights. That day he swore a boy's oath to himself. He would be the greatest swordsman who ever lived. Not for glory, not even for his father, just because the world should have something beautiful in it. He was 15 when the world answered back. It happened at a tourney at Old Town. Jaime had come to joust incognito, a mystery knight in plain armor, fighting a fair battle without anyone knowing who he was. He unhorsed every man who rode against him, collecting ransoms he didn't need and kisses he didn't want. In the final tilt, he faced the smiling knight himself and left him smiling on the ground. When he removed his helm, the crowd roared loud enough to shake gulls from the high tower. King Aerys II was there, half mad already, smelling of ash and paranoia. He watched the golden boy with the golden sword and saw something he could use. That night, in front of the entire court, the king rose from his seat of twisted weirwood and dragonbone and offered Jaime Lannister a white cloak, the youngest Kingsguard in history, an honor no man could refuse. Tywin's face was stone, Cersei's was thunder. Jaime knelt. The cloak settled on his shoulders like chains made of snow. He told himself it was glory. He told himself it was the highest calling a knight could have. He told himself anything but the truth, that Aerys wanted a hostage in white, that Cersei had whispered poison in the king's ear, because if Jaime was bound to King's Landing, he could not be married off to some lord's daughter far away. She wanted him close. She wanted him hers. So the boy who dreamed of Arthur Dane's sunrise blade found himself instead guarding a king who smelled of smoke and rot. He rode away from Casterly Rock in gleaming white, 16 years old, laughing because that was what golden boys did when their hearts were breaking. Cersei kissed him one last time behind the royal pavilion, fierce and possessive, and whispered that distance meant nothing. They would find ways. Tywin looked on, his eyes showing hints of approval. But King's Landing swallowed Jaime whole. The Red Keep was a maze of red stone and redder lies. Courtiers smiled with too many teeth. The Iron Throne cut everyone who sat on it, and Aerys sat often. He stood behind the throne for hours at a time, motionless, listening to the king voice his paranoid thoughts. He watched good men kneel and crawl away missing tongues or eyes. He watched his father's army sack the city that first time, back when Robert still had a rebellion to win, and he understood that Lannister gold could buy anything except respect. He would seek out Cersei at night. They moved like thieves stealing the only thing the world had not yet taken. Each time felt like defiance. Years slipped by in that fever dream court. The white cloak grew heavy. He told himself the vows were just words. He told himself love was worth any price. He told himself a great many lies that sounded like truth when you are young and beautiful and damned. Then came the morning the music died. The city was burning again, but this time the fire was inside the walls. The city was in despair, while the mad king's laughter echoed throughout the Red Keep. Though this time the laughter dripped with calls for wildfire and the head of Jaime's own father, Tywin Lannister. That was the morning Jaime Lannister decided an oath to the dead could not bind the living. He climbed the steps of the Iron Throne. The boy, who had once wanted to be Arthur Dane, became something else entirely. He could no longer take the king spiraling. Jaime's sword came out without thinking. Aerys looked surprised, only for a heartbeat. Then the surprise turned to something that might have been relief, and he folded forward onto the blades of the throne that had cut him 1,000 times already. The Mad King was dead and the Kingslayer was born. Jaime stood there long enough for the blood to stop running. He heard footsteps. They found the king's blood dripping through the seat onto Jaime's white cloak. Someone would later swear Jaime had smiled while he sat there. He doesn't remember smiling, but word spread faster than flames. Kingslayer. Tywin marched in later, late as always when the dirty work was done, and looked at his son the way a man looks at a blade that has served its purpose and can now be thrown away. Jaime expected questions. He got none. He expected punishment. He got a nod, almost too small to see. He was only 17 years old. No one ever truly asked Jaime why he did what he did. Protected by his name, Jaime never felt the intense need for vindication. At least, none that he realized at the time. That would come later. But for now, the truth was that it was easier to have a villain than a hero who broke his vows. So Jaime gave them the villain. He let the names come in. Kingslayer, Oathbreaker, a man with no honor. The names slid off his back like water because the only name that truly mattered to him was the one he was born with. Lannister. And soon enough, that name led him back behind the throne, this time guarding the husband of the woman he loved. Winterfell had never seen so many Southron banners at once. The yard thundered with hooves and creaking wheels and the shouts of men who thought the north was just another place to be conquered. Snow hissed under iron-shod horses. Breath plumed white. The direwolf banners hung stiff in the frost, while crimson lions snapped overhead like they owned the sky. Robert came first, red-faced and roaring, already half out of the saddle before his horse stopped moving. Then the golden wheelhouse, huge as a war galley, painted with lions and roses. Then the Kingsguard in their white cloaks, bright as fresh wounds. And at the heart of it all, 2 golden heads that looked carved from the same block of sunlight. Jaime and Cersei Lannister. To every watching northerner, they were simply the beautiful Lannister twins. The Queen and her twin brother, mirror images, perfect courtly smiles. When Cersei stepped down from the wheelhouse in cloth of gold and white fur, Jaime was there to offer his arm like any gallant knight. Their fingers brushed. Their eyes met for the space of a single heartbeat. No one noticed anything amiss. No one ever did. The Starks greeted them with northern courtesy, polite, wary, proud. Ned's handshake with Robert was fierce and honest. His bow to Cersei was correct to the inch. His nod to Jaime carried the weight of old blood and older silence. Inside the great hall that night the fires roared high enough to melt mail. Long tables groaned under venison and black bread and dark strong ale. The days were fairly pleasant. Sansa tried to give everyone the best impressions of herself. Jon prepared his journey for the wall. Rickon and Bran practiced their aim with bows, though Arya had a way of outdoing them both. Catelyn looked admiringly at all her children, but there was always time to slip away. Cersei and Jaime always found a time to be together. On this day in Winterfell, they met in the oldest part of the castle, the broken tower no one used anymore. Cersei's gown pooled at her feet, Jaime's white cloak discarded onto the floor, but above them, a shadow moved on the wall. Bran Stark, 10 years old and fearless, had climbed again. He loved the way Winterfell looked from the rooftops, the whole world small beneath his hands. He saw the golden hair first, then the Queen's face. Bran made a small sound, surprise, horror, wonder, all at once. Cersei whispered, "He saw us." Jaime looked at the boy dangling 20 feet above the stones, fingers scrabbling for purchase on icy stone. He saw the open window. He saw the long drop. He saw the future collapsing into this single, impossible second. He didn't think about honor. He didn't think about mercy. He didn't think about the boy at all. His hand closed on Bran's arm like a vice. The boy's eyes, grey, wide, trusting. He looked at Cersei with tired eyes and a half smile. "The things I do for love," he says. Then, without even looking at the boy, Jaime pushed. It was effortless. One small shove and the child was gone, tumbling through cold air with a cry that barely had time to form. The sound he made when he hit the ground was soft, almost gentle. Jaime looked out from the window. He felt nothing. Not yet. A hollowness where something should have screamed. Down in the yard later, when the alarm finally went up, he stood with the other knights and made the right noises of concern. He looked shocked and saddened the way a good Kingsguard should. Only once, when no one was watching, did he glance up at the broken tower and feel the first cold thread of something that might one day have a name. But not yet, not for a long time. The royal trip to Winterfell was one of intention. Robert Baratheon wanted the Honourable Ned Stark to act as his hand after his own had recently passed. Jon Arryn had worn the handspin for 17 years, steady as winter, until poison slipped between his ribs one quiet night. Ned Stark came south reluctant, dragging his honour behind him like a chain, already tasting that something was wrong with the old man's death. Ned was tipped off that Arryn had been asking too many questions. Many men would not have asked those same questions, considering the whispered suspicions of Jon Arryn's death. But Ned Stark was not like other men. Where Arryn had begun to ask questions, Ned continued. He turned pages in dusty ledgers, traced the black-haired trail of Robert's bastards through flea-bottom alleys, studied birth records that should have shown Baratheon black, but showed only Lannister gold. The pattern grew clear as frost on glass. Joffrey, Myrcella, Tommen. No stag in any of them, only lion. Then came the night Tyrion was taken. Catelyn Stark's men seized the imp on the King's Road, dragging him toward the Eyrie on charges of attempted murder for Bran. The boy had survived, though no one was ever certain of who had pushed him. Word reached Jaime like a slap. He left the brothel post where Robert caroused, white cloak snapping, and hunted Ned Stark through the twisting streets. They met in a narrow way lit by guttering torches. Steel flashed before thought. Ned's household guard fell fast. A blade kissed Ned's thigh, parting flesh to the bone. Jaime stood over him, eyes flat and unforgiving. He had always cared for his little brother, more than anyone else did. What's more, it was not Tyrion who tried to have Bran killed. Jaime was certain of that. The demand was wordless but absolute. Return the dwarf, or next time the cut would be deeper. Then the white cloak vanished into the dark. Ned Stark remained at King's Landing despite the attack. Cersei had been gaining a reputation for her indifference and perhaps even enjoyment of certain schemes. But this did nothing to scare Ned off. They met in the garden, walking pleasantly together on the gravel paths in pale silk, sunlight catching in her hair like a crown of knives. But despite the beautiful day, Ned laid the ugly truth bare without raising his voice. The children were Jaime's, everyone, born of the same golden sin. that had poisoned the realm from within. Cersei listened beneath the weeping branches, face still as carved ivory. When he finished, the garden felt colder. She understood then that mercy was no longer possible. The hand of the king had signed his own death warrant. With Catelyn Stark holding Tyrion hostage, and the unhealthy lifestyle habits of her husband King Robert, as well as her own Lannister name carrying weight across all of Westeros, Cersei knew she would win this fight, and Jaime would be alongside her through all of it. Tywin Lannister sat in the field tent skinning a stag with slow, precise strokes of a small knife, the carcass dripping onto the carpet. Jaime stood before his father in full armor, still streaked with the dust of the road. The silence stretched until the only sound was the wet scrape of blade on hide. Attacking the hand of the king had been foolish, Tywin said at last, voice flat as winter iron. Vain, reckless, a boy's tantrum dressed in steel. Jaime bristled, began to speak of Tyrion in chains, of Catelyn Stark's ambush on the King's Road. Tywin listened without interest. The imp was still a Lannister, and Lannisters were not left in cages. Every day Tyrion remained a prisoner. The lion looked weaker. Then Tywin looked up, eyes the pale green of old ice, and gave his son 30,000 men. Become the man you were meant to be. The armies split like a cracked blade, Tywin marching east to face whatever the river lords could throw at him, Jaime riding west towards the setting sun. He felt taller in the saddle that day, the old swagger returning. He was the lion again, the golden hand of vengeance. Far to the north, the young wolf was already moving. Robb Stark, barely 16, had taken his father's greatsword and his father's war. Tyrion had slipped their grasp at the Eyrie, freed by a sellsword's blade and a hill clansman's axe, and was already riding south to join Tywin. But the North did not forgive. The North did not forget. They wanted Ned Stark and his daughters returned, or they wanted blood. Jaime made camp along the Red Fork. Careless in his certainty, he drank with his captains, laughed too loudly, let the scouts ride wide. He never saw the net closing. They came at him in the Whispering Wood, under a moonless sky. Stark riders poured from the trees like a grey tide. Jaime's camp was overtaken quickly. He fought in the heart of it, swords singing, golden armor flashing red in the firelight. He carved a circle of corpses around himself, laughing again, wild, desperate, beautiful. A loop of chain dropped over his shoulders. A mace cracked against his helm. The ground rose up to meet him. When he woke, his wrists were bound, his armor stripped to the undertunic, blood crusted in his hair. They dragged him through the mud to a tent where Catelyn Stark waited, face carved from winter oak. She struck him hard across the face. The blow split his lip, but he only smiled, teeth red. He taunted her with Ned's death on the steps of Baelor, slow, savouring every word. She asked about Bran, about the broken tower, about the boy who would never walk again. He admitted it without blinking, voice light as summer wine. Why? She demanded. He told her to sleep, that some truths were sharper than swords and twice as cruel. His hair still gleamed golden in the torchlight. His eyes still burned bright. His chin stayed high, proud as ever. Only when she turned to leave, when the tent flap fell shut behind her, did Jaime Lannister lower his head. They kept him in a pen now, like a fighting cock past its prime. The iron collar bit into his neck every time he breathed. His beard had grown in patchy gold and filth. The white and gold armor was long gone. They had left him in a torn tunic and his own stink. Yet when the guards shoved the new prisoner through the gate, Jaime still managed to look down his nose, chin high, green eyes sharp as broken glass. The boy was young, nervous, tongue-tied with awe. He stammered that he had once squired for Sir Jaime Lannister at a tourney years ago, had carried the lance, had polished the armour, had watched the Golden Knight unhorse 3 men in a single pass. Jaime squinted, remembered nothing, then pretended he did. He tossed the lad a few careless crumbs of praise, good grip, steady hands, the way a lord tosses scraps to a dog. The boy's face lit up like sunrise. He said it had been the best day of his life. Something flickered across Jaime's face, an old memory of himself at 16, riding behind Sumner Crakehall, polishing spurs and dreaming of white cloaks. For a heartbeat the mask slipped. Then the old cruelty slid back into place smooth as silk. A moment later the boy was dead, throat open by the same chain that held Jaime prisoner. The guard rushed in. Jaime took the keys from a second corpse and tasted freedom for one cold, perfect breath of night air. They caught him before dawn. The march through camp the next morning was a gauntlet of fists and spit and steel-shod boots. Men who had once cheered his name now screamed for it on a spike. The chain around his neck jerked him forward. Blood ran from his nose and mouth in steady crimson drops. He did not bow his head again. Only one voice rose above the roar, Catelyn Stark's, cold and commanding, demanding the Kingslayer be kept alive. "A trade," she said. "Her daughters for the lion." Some listened. Most did not. By nightfall, the camp reeked of murder. Robb was away settling the west, and the young wolf's absence left the pack leaderless. Torches gathered outside the pen. Blades were loosened. The air tasted of coming blood. The men wanted to kill a Lannister, and who better than the Kingslayer? Catelyn came to him in the dark, with Brienne of Tarth at her side, incredibly tall, armoured in plain steel and impossible honour. Brienne seemed to be the only one in camp to listen to Catelyn, to respect her wishes to keep Jaime alive. Jaime heard the mob beyond the canvas and knew this was the hour the song ended. He greeted them with the old lazy smirk, insults rolling off his tongue like water. He called them both fools for thinking honour still mattered. Catelyn answered only once. A man without honour, she named him. Jaime laughed, soft and bitter. He had never touched another woman but Cersei, he said. In that at least, he had kept faith, where Ned Stark never had. Silence fell thick as winter wool. Jon Snow had always been a sore spot for Catelyn, the bastard she had to raise among her own children, the one she could never truly accept due to the conditions that he came into this world. Or supposedly so. But Catelyn had never known any other truth, except that Ned must have been unfaithful to her. Then Catelyn told Brienne to draw her sword. The blade flashed sapphire in the torchlight. Jaime did not flinch. He had made his peace with dying a long time ago. Instead of his neck, the sword bit through iron. The collar fell away. Chains clattered to the dirt. Brienne hauled him to his feet. Catelyn's voice was iron wrapped in velvet. He would ride south with Brienne of Tarth. One lion for 2 little wolves. If Sansa and Arya came home breathing, Jaime would keep breathing. Jaime was surprised. But going with this Brienne was the better option than staying with the bloodthirsty men lurking outside his cage. He could get back to Cersei. So Jaime Lannister stood up on his weakened legs and followed Brienne into the night. Walking beside Jaime Lannister feels like walking beside a blade that keeps turning in your hand. He provokes at every step, mocking her face, her height, her honour, always with that half-smile, as if the ropes on his wrists are only a temporary joke. Brienne answers little. The road is long, the silence longer. They come upon 3 hanged women swaying above the road, a sign beneath them, "Lane with lions." Before Brienne can steer them past, hoofbeats sound. The bloody mummers ride out, greasy, grinning, cruel. One squints at the prisoner, recognizes the golden hair, the green eyes. Brienne tries to talk them down, insists the man beside her is no one. The lie lasts only a breath. Steel flashes. In less than a minute, every sellsword lies dead in the dust. Jaime stands motionless, watching Brienne lower her swords. She cuts the women down without a word, digs shallow graves, speaks a quiet prayer over each body. Jaime watches her work and says nothing at all. They walk on. The banter starts again, but softer now. He asks about her oath to Catelyn, notes he never saw her at Winterfell. He guesses who she served before, Renly, of course. He makes a gentle joke about the rumours that once followed the Stag King, the ones insinuating he always preferred knights rather than fair maidens. Brienne's hand shoots out, seizes his tunic, anger blazing. She had no tolerance for slander of Renly. He was one of the few men that had ever shown her kindness. But Jaime meets her eyes and tells her, calm and low, that no one chooses who they love. He means Cersei, though he doesn't say it, but his eyes are genuine. Brienne releases him. A little farther down the road they pass an old man, bent and harmless. Jaime tells her to kill him before he talks. Brienne refuses. The old man only smiled and wished them 7 blessings. They reach a narrow stone bridge at dusk. Jaime sits on the parapet, claims his feet hurt, a clear taunt. Brienne steps in close. In one heartbeat, he has one of her swords free. In the next they are fighting along the bridge, blades ringing, feet scraping stone. They are evenly matched for a handful of moments. Then riders appear in a flash of House Bolton banners. The old man stands among them, pointing. He had seen him before, coincidentally, on the same day Jaime's old cellmate had squired for him. It is a full circle moment Jaime has to recognize. He sighs, lowers the stolen sword, and waits for the irons. They ride tied back to back on the same weary horse. Brienne's broad shoulders against Jaime's, ropes biting deep. Bolton men surround them on every side, pink cloaks and cruel faces. The bickering starts almost at once. Jaime claims he had her on the bridge. Brienne says he fought like a man with 2 left feet. They trade insults the way other people trade stories, half angry, half alive. Then the tone shifts. Jaime's voice drops, low and serious. She is a high-born woman alone among sellswords and worse. They will not care about oaths or honour. When night comes, they will take what they want, and if she fights every one of them, they will kill her for sport. He is the prize they need breathing. She is only the entertainment. Brienne says nothing. Night falls hard. Brienne is tied to one tree, Jaime to another. They are helpless of the situation, but helplessness turns to fear for Brienne. The men untie her and walk her away from the camp, laughing at her protests. Jaime hears this. He calls out to the leader, Locke, voice smooth as oil. Brienne of Tarth is an heiress of sapphires, he says. Return her whole and unharmed, and her father will drown them in gems. Locke hesitates, then nods. The men drag Brienne back, retie her to a tree, untouched for now. Jaime keeps talking, the old golden charm sliding out like a snake. His own father will pay any weight of gold for the safe return of his eldest son. Tywin Lannister's reach is long, his memory longer. Locke listens, smiling wider with every word. Then the smile turns sharp. He orders Jaime untied, offers him wine, roasted meat, a place by the fire. Jaime almost believes it. Unit, they bend him over a fallen log. His right arm is stretched out, wrist pinned to the wood. Locke leans close and whispers that Jaime is nothing without his father, and Tywin is very far away. A man hands Locke a short, heavy knife. The blade comes down clean. The best swordsman in all of Westeros has lost his hand. The next day is a slow death on horseback. Jaime sags in the saddle, his severed hand hung around his neck like a cruel pendant. Fever burns in him. Blood crosses the stump. Each jolt of the horse tears a small sound from his throat that is not quite a moan. Brienne watches, helpless and horrified. She warns the riders he will fall. No one listens. He falls, face first into the mud, too weak even to curse. He whispers one word, cracked and small: water. They laugh and give him that of horses to drink. Something in him flares one last time. He drags himself up, grabs a sword with his left hand, swings wild and useless. They beat him down again, boots and fists, until the mud is red and he no longer moves. That night they sit tied together near the fire, apart from the others. Brienne pushes a bowl of thin stew toward him. He must live, she says, quiet but fierce. He stares at the empty place where his sword hand used to be. Without it, he is nothing, he says. The words come out flat, already dead. Brienne tells him people lose what matters most and still go on. He cannot let this end him. The words penetrate. He eats a few bites, slow, like a man swallowing glass. She lowers her voice. She knows that he lied about the sapphires, that called her island rich in gems, when the sapphire name only comes from the blue water. He meets her eyes then, and for once there is no smirk. The day comes that Locke delivers the pair to Lord Bolton. Jaime musters the strength to ask Lord Bolton if there was any word from the capital. Bolton draws it out slowly, going over the Battle of Blackwater. He leads up to the status of Cersei, a panic rising in Jaime at every passing moment before Bolton tells him that Tywin prevailed and Cersei is alive and well. Jaime falls to his knees at the news. Later, they are given a bath, a rare mercy in Harrenhal's ruined depths. Steam rises from the stone tubs. Brienne is already in the water when Jaime steps in, naked, bleeding, past caring. She protests. He ignores her and sinks into the heat. He is exhausted and she is wary, but she listens as he begins to speak, his voice soft. Kingslayer, oathbreaker, a man without honor. Then the words spill out like blood from a fresh wound. He tells her of the Mad King and the wildfire, of caches hidden beneath the city, beneath homes and septs and stables, of Aerys laughing while the city and all those in it waited to burn green, of Tywin marching in under false banners, of the gates opening because the king believed Lannisters would never turn. The Mad King ordered Jaime to bring Tywin his own father's head. And then he spiraled even more into delirium, the only words clearly stated being an order of mass murder. Burn them all. He tells her he could not stand by, knowing the fate awaiting 500,000 people. So he slid his sword into the king's back, while the man still giggled about fire. And no one ever cared to truly ask why. He looks at the water, at the stump resting on the edge of the tub, and says very quietly, "My name is Jaime." Then the fever takes him and he falls forward. Brienne catches him before he slips under the water. She holds him against her chest, arms strong and steady, and does not let go. Rose Bolton sits across the long table in Harrenhal's draughty hall, his voice quiet and precise. He will let Jaime go free, he says, as long as Jaime promises to tell Tywin that the North played no part in the loss of his hand. Brienne is not part of this deal. She must stay behind. Jaime tries to argue for her release. Bolton cuts him off with a single look, reminding him how poorly his last attempt at bargaining ended. Nothing more is said. That night Jaime finds Brienne in her room. She asks what will happen to her once he leaves. He stands in silence, the air heavy between them. They both know the answer. He tells her he owes her a life. She reminds him of the oath he swore to Catelyn Stark. He vows to return her daughters safely to her. That is all. In the morning he rides out. Bolton is already busy preparing for the infamous wedding to come at House Frey. Locke offers one last taunt. Jaime says nothing and keeps riding, Qyburn at his side to tend the wound. On the road south, Qyburn talks about the work that cost him his chain, how he saved lives even if the methods were cruel. Jaime listens, then says he once saved 500,000 lives, the entire population of King's Landing. The truth he shared with Brienne now comes out more easily. Brienne stays in his thoughts. When a messenger reports that Lord Selwyn Tarth has offered only a small ransom, far too little to satisfy the bloody mummers, Jaime turns his horse around without a word. Locke had been under the impression that Brienne came from endless supplies of precious jewels. Jaime must write this. He reaches Harrenhal again at dusk. The men are gathered around a pit, laughing and shouting. Brienne stands below in the sand, holding a painted wooden sword. A huge black bear paces in front of her. The crowd above cheers for blood. Jaime tries to reason with the men. No one listens, so he jumps down into the pit. The bear roars and charges. Brienne stares at him in disbelief. Arrows from Jaime's escort strike the animal, slowing it just enough. A rope drops over the edge. Jaime pushes Brienne up first, then climbs after her as claws tear the air behind him. Locke blocks the gate, insisting the wench stays. Jaime looks him in the eye and reminds him of Bolton's order. The Kingslayer is to reach Tywin Lannister alive. Locke sheaths his sword and steps aside. They ride away from the ruined towers as the sun lowers. In due time, they reach King's Landing. Jaime goes straight to Cersei's solar. She turns from the window, candlelight catching in her golden hair, a smile already forming. The smile fades when she sees him. Dirty, thin, the right sleeve empty and pinned, the stump hidden beneath a thick bandage. She stares at the place where his hand should be. Neither of them speaks. We meet Jaime sometime later. Walking through the corridors of the Red Keep, the change is striking. His hair is cropped short, the golden mane tamed. The ragged prisoner's beard is gone. He wears Lannister crimson and black, the fabric cut close to hide the empty sleeve. The spark is back in his eyes, not the old careless fire, but something harder, tempered. He meets with his father. A sword lies on the table between them, rippled Valyrian steel in a scarlet scabbard. A gift, Tywin says. A reminder of what a Lannister should be. Then comes the command. Leave the White Cloak, take a wife, rule Casterly Rock as the heir Tywin always intended. Jaime refuses, calm and final. He wants no lands, no titles, no children. He does not need to say the rest. He doesn't say it aloud, but he means to stay in the Red Keep beside Cersei until the end. Tywin's mouth thins, but he lets it stand. Soon after, the smiths fit the golden hand, polished metal jointed like a living thing, strapped over the bandaged stump. Cersei watches, eyes bright with something that might be relief. Jaime notices the wine on her breath, the way her cup never empties. She lists the reasons, war, grief, their father's schemes, then adds that she is to marry Sir Loras Tyrell. When he reaches for her, she pulls away, anger flaring. He was gone too long, she says. She suffered alone. The golden hand hangs useless between them. The purple wedding arrives in a riot of silk and roses. Jaime finds Loras Tyrell beside the tawny ground. He speaks plainly. Cersei will kill you, and any child you give her. It will never come to that, he adds, because the marriage will never happen. Loras looks at him with cold rose garden eyes and answers that Jaime will never marry her either. Then he walks away. Across the yard, Jaime sees Cersei speaking with Brienne. The Queen's smile is sharp as broken glass. Brienne bows stiffly and leaves. Jaime understands at once. Cersei has seen the way he looks at the woman now, the way he speaks her name without mockery. Jaime's undying devotion to Cersei is threatened. This makes Brienne's life threatened. The thought is still settling when the screaming starts. Joffrey is on the ground, clawing at his throat, face turning purple. Wine and spit foam at his lips. Cersei shrieks and throws herself over her son. Jaime drops beside her, the golden hand useless, the real one pressing against the boy's chest, as if he could force the poison back down. Their son dies choking on his own wedding feast, eyes bulging, fingers reaching for a father who cannot help him. Cersei will not leave the great sept. She sits beside Joffrey's corpse on his bier, pale and still in crimson and gold, candles guttering around them like dying stars. She is certain Tyrion is responsible for the poison, responsible for the death of King, the death of her son. Jaime stands behind her and says there will be a trial, that the truth will come out in the open. Cersei does not want truth. She wants her little brother dead. Jaime does not agree, only pulls her close. She wrenches herself free again, eyes wild with grief and wine. Something in him snaps. He calls her hateful and curses himself for loving a hateful woman. But Jaime does not fall into despair. He trains every morning now in the yard of the Red Keep, left hand clumsy on the practice blade. Bronn of the Blackwater knocks him down again and again, laughing while he does it. Between blows, the sellsword mentions that Tyrion had wanted Jaime for his champion at the Eyrie, and had only chosen Bronn because there was no time to send a raven for Jaime. Tyrion knew his golden brother would have come. The words land harder than any sword. Jaime goes to see Tyrion that night. Tyrion looks small in the shadows, but the eyes are sharp. They speak carefully. Anger, regret, old jokes that hurt more than insults. Tyrion knows the trial is a farce. Their father sits in judgment, and their sister wants blood. Nothing Jaime says can change that. They are at a stalemate, though they both understand why. Their dynamic is an impossible one. Cersei learns of the visit. She confronts him in her chambers, wine on her breath, fury in her voice. She accuses him of choosing Tyrion over her, over their dead son. He tells her again that Tyrion is innocent of the poison. She does not hear him. She is slipping further into rage and grief, and Jaime sees it clearly now. The woman he loved is burning herself down. He cannot watch another person he swore to protect die because of Cersei's hate. He finds Brienne. He gives her the sword of Valyrian steel. He tells her to take Podrick Payne and ride north. Find Sansa Stark. Keep the oath he swore to Catelyn. Keep it far from Cersei's reach. Brienne looks at the sword, then at the man offering it, one-handed, hollow-eyed, still trying to do something right. She takes the blade. She calls it Oathkeeper. It is painful to sit on at Tyrion's trial, but Jaime stays. At a recess, he seeks out their father, telling Tywin that the trial is clearly a farce, a long, drawn-out demonstration on what justice might look like, though it was never truly present even from the start. Tywin dismisses all of Jaime's arguments and only states the crime that Tyrion is accused of, killing the king. Jaime reminds his father that he is the one known as the Kingslayer. He then tells Tywin that the last order the Mad King gave him was to bring him Tywin's head. Jaime didn't, but now here they are, Tywin preparing to sentence Jaime's brother to death. Jaime continues, Tywin puts tremendous emphasis on family legacy, but as a sworn member of the King's Guard, Jaime will not have his own children carry on the Lannister name. Tyrion is only able to do so. Tywin rebuttals, saying letting the killer of his grandson go free will tarnish the legacy. So Jaime offers himself. He will leave the Kingsguard. He will take Tywin's place as his son and heir at Casterly Rock if Tyrion's life can be spared. Tywin agrees immediately. Tyrion will not face death. Tywin will offer the Night's Watch instead, after Tyrion pleads guilty. Jaime is quiet for a moment, but agrees to the terms. Jaime quickly goes to Tyrion and tells him the plan. Tyrion is hesitant, thinking of Ned Stark, who was also promised a position at the Night's Watch, but Jaime begs Tyrion to trust him. Everything changes, though, when Shae, Tyrion's lover, is brought in to testify. Tyrion painfully listens to the woman he loves spew the lies his father fed her. He is enraged by the time it is his time to confess. Tyrion tells them all he did not kill Joffrey, but he wishes he had. He does not plead for the Night's Watch, instead demanding a trial by combat. Jaime hangs his head. He finds Tyrion later in his cell and tells him that by demanding trial by combat, he has just killed himself. Without his sword hand, Jaime can no longer fight for him. For a moment, they both laugh at the idea of Tywin sitting there watching the whole thing. Then the laughter stops. Tyrion asks Jaime to bring Bronn. Jaime does. Bronn refuses the moment he hears the opponent is Gregor Clegane, the Mountain. But it is Oberyn Martell volunteers instead. He has his own revenge to take on Gregor Clegane, and the light comes back into Tyrion's eyes, seeing such a marvelous champion to defend him. Before the fight, Jaime visits again. They talk the way they used to when they were boys, pretending the impending duel does not exist. But it does, and on that day, Oberyn loses. Tyrion is condemned to die. Cersei still wants more. She goes to Tywin and tells him to end her betrothal to Loras Tyrell. When Tywin refuses, she threatens to tell the entire city the truth about her and Jaime, the truth about her children, the truth about the Lannister legacy that Tywin is so devoted to upholding. She finds Jaime and tells him what she has done. He is angry that she helped doom Tyrion, but Cersei has always been his weakness. She ignores his anger over their brother, pulls him close, and they lay together. In that moment, Tyrion and Tywin do not exist. But they do exist. That same night, Jaime takes keys from Varys and opens Tyrion's cell. Varys leads his brother into the tunnels. They embrace once. Tyrion thanks him for his life. Jaime leaves his little brother. What Jaime does not know is that Tyrion did not go straight to the awaiting Varys. Instead, Tyrion goes first to Shae, the woman he loved who betrayed him, and strangled her. He then goes to the Tower of the Hand and put a crossbow bolt through their father while he sat on the privy. Only then does Tyrion leave. Jaime cannot grieve Tywin the way a son should. The great lion is dead on a slab in the Great Sept, and every enemy of House Lannister smells blood in the water. Jaime tries to speak sense to Cersei, to plan a way forward for both of them, to hold what is left of their power. Cersei will have none of it. She stands over their father's body and stares at Jaime with cold accusation. Tyrion did this, she says, and Jaime is the one who set him free. Tywin loved Jaime best, she tells him, and now Tywin is dead because of Jaime's softness. The words cut deeper than any blade. She keeps him at a distance after that. Only when Myrcella's necklace arrives in a box does she send for him. Their daughter, safe in Dawn, or so they thought, is now threatened, her necklace presented to Cersei in the mouth of a viper. Cersei's voice rises in panic, the words, "our daughter," slipping out before she can stop them. Jaime tells her to lower her voice. He reminds her quietly that he has never been allowed to be a father to any of their children. She rages at him, mocks the idea of a one-handed man riding to the rescue. He says nothing more, but his jaw is set, determined. He finds Bronn and offers a bargain. Come to Dawn, help bring Myrcella home, and earn a rich bride and a castle. Bronn grins and agrees. They sail on a merchant ship, keeping quiet, keeping small. One day, the green cliffs of Tarth rise on the horizon, sapphire waters gleaming below. Jaime stares longer than he means to. He thinks of Brienne and hopes she's safe. Bronn watches him and asks why they travel like thieves when Jaime could command an army. Jaime stays silent. Bronn guesses anyway. Jaime freed Tyrion. Tyrion killed Tywin. And now Jaime is trying to stitch the family back together by bringing Myrcella home. They land in Dawn and are recognized to be from King's Landing almost at once. 4 Dornish riders come at them in the sand. Steel flashes. Jaime's golden hand turns a blade that would have taken his head. Bronn kills 2. The others die quickly. They ride on, unwelcome in this land. At the Water Gardens, Jaime finds Myrcella happy, in love, betrothed to Trystane Martell. She does not understand why he has come. Before he can explain, Ellaria Sand and the Sand Snakes appear, intent on killing the girl as revenge for Oberyn's death. Prince Doran's guards arrive in time to stop the blades. Jaime is taken as a guest, not prisoner. Doran wants peace. He agrees Myrcella will return to King's Landing with Jaime, and Trysine will go with her to seal the bargain. Bronn, held in a cell previously, is released and allowed to return with Jaime. Myrcella is confused, but trusting. Ellaria watches with murder in her eyes, and then the sun is bright in the sky when the time to depart for King's Landing comes. Myrcella, having enjoyed her time in Dawn, gives heartfelt goodbyes to those around. She is surprised when Ellaria embraces her, even more so when she kisses the girl. But she keeps her sweet temperament, though slightly confused, and boards the ship with her uncle Jaime. It is in her room on board that Jaime comes to her. He gifts her the necklace that was sent to King's Landing originally as a threat, but now comes as a full circle moment. Jaime is smiling. He has done something right. Myrcella has Trystane with her. She is happy. His family can come back together, and even more so. Jaime sits down. He tells Myrcella he has something to tell her, though his charming demeanor turns clumsy. He doesn't know how to get the words out. He wants to tell her the truth, but he has never been able to say the words aloud to anyone besides Cersei. But his daughter is older, more worldly now, and he wants to be a father to her. He is her father, she must know, but she already does. As Jaime fumbles for the right words, Myrcella scoops them all up and cradles them gracefully. She knows about him and his mother, and she smiles. She's glad that Jaime is her father. He cannot speak. He can only stare. This beautiful young girl, who knows him and loves him and claims herself as his. His heart soars. He has waited so long for this moment. They hug and everything is right in the world. After a moment she pulls away to look up and smile at her father. But there is blood in her nose. It trails down. More comes. Her expression turns to fear. So does Jaime's. Every good deed he has done that led up to this moment where he is finally worthy turns to ash as she seizes. She collapses, and he catches her, in shock and disbelief about all that has crumbled before him. He finally did it. He finally did it all, and it all dies with his daughter. Ellaria had poisoned her with mother's mercy, sealing Myrcella's fate with the goodbye kiss. Jaime can do nothing but hold her. Cersei is at the docks when the ship arrives. She has not smiled genuinely since the High Sparrow took power. Now she does. She sees the ship, sees Jaime at the front, and runs forward to embrace her only daughter. The smile lasts only seconds. She sees the casket behind him, wrapped in a golden shroud. Just like the witch predicted, Jaime sits with Cersei later in the room where the casket rests. They share their grief. Myrcella was good. She was sweet and pure. Cersei says she was amazed such a gentle soul could come from her, but she must have done something right to have a daughter like theirs. Jaime is quiet. He agrees until his voice breaks with guilt and failure. Cersei does not let him drown in it. She tells him everything the witch said is true. She would have 3 children, and she would live while they all died. Jaime pushes back. No witch or prophecy controls their lives. Only the 2 of them matter. Later, Jaime and Tommen stand alone over Myrcella's body. The boy king's face is tight with anger that is not truly aimed at Cersei. It is shame. Joffrey dead. Myrcella dead. Margaery in a cell. His mother stripped and shorn and marched naked through the streets. He wears the crown, but has no power to stop any of it. Jaime tells him to go to Cersei. She has only ever loved her children. The High Sparrow enters with his barefoot followers. Jaime's hand drops to his sword hilt, hate burning cold. This is the man who humiliated the woman he loves. He questions the High Sparrow's faith, the righteousness that justifies cruelty. The sparrows close in silently, staves ready. Jaime sees he cannot draw steel here, cannot leave his family undefended. He forces his hand away from the sword. He returns to Cersei's side. Sir Gregor Clegane looms behind her now, silent, blue-lipped, a dead man walking in armor. Jaime still cannot believe what Qyburn has made, but relief is stronger than horror. Cersei is guarded by something nothing can kill. Tommen sits frozen, terrified that any move against the faith will bring fresh punishment on his mother or his wife. He confesses this to Cersei, then shares the secret the High Sparrow whispered to him. Cersei storms into the small council chamber moments later. She announces that Tommen, paralyzed by fear of retaliation, has forbidden Lannister soldiers from acting. Then she turns to Olenna Tyrell and offers a different army. Tyrell troops to crush the Sparrows before Margaery is forced to walk the same path of shame. Olenna, thinking of her granddaughter, agrees. The morning of Margaery's walk dawns cold and bright. The streets are already packed. The Tyrell army marches in, green and gold, banners snapping. Jaime rides at their head. Olenna Tyrell steps down from her carriage and looks up at her granddaughter on the steps of Baela's Sept. Margaery stands ready, head high, waiting for the High Sparrow to finish listing her sins. Jaime speaks once, calm and clear. They have come for Margaery and Loras. If the Sparrows refuse, none of them will leave the Sept alive. The High Sparrow does not flinch. Instead, he surprises everyone, announcing there will be no walk. Margaery has atoned another way. She has brought Tommen to the faith. Crown and faith are now one. Jaime stands stunned in the sudden silence as he watches his only living child stand side by side with those that have torn King's Landing to shame and ruin. Later, in the throne room, Tommen sits on the Iron Throne, small beneath the weight of it. Because Jaime raised an army against the faith, he is stripped of the white cloak. Jaime stares at the boy, his last living child, and cannot understand how he fell so completely under the High Sparrow's spell. Tommen orders him to leave the city and take command of the siege at River Run. Jaime finds Cersei in her chambers, fury pouring out of him. He swears he will gather the deadliest men in the city and cut the High Sparrow's head off himself. The man has stolen their only remaining son. Cersei stops him. He would die in the attempt, or die the moment after he succeeded. She needs him alive. If Jaime must go to River Run, he is not to worry for Cersei's safety. She reminds him she has the mountain. She tells him to go to River Run, win the castle, and show the world the Lannisters are still lions. He does not want to leave her with her own trial coming, but she insists. Bronn rides with Jaime north to join the Freys already camped beneath River Run's walls. Jaime crosses the river alone under a Parley flag and meets the Blackfish on the battlements. He offers terms, surrender, and no one dies. Edmure Tully will live. The garrison will walk free. The Blackfish refuses. He calls Jaime Kingslayer, Oathbreaker, man without honor. He tells Jaime that he was born in this castle, and he will die in it. Jaime asks why he even agreed to talk, if he was never going to agree to any other terms. The Blackfish looks him over, cold and tired, and says he wanted to see what kind of man Jaime had become, and he is not impressed. Brienne and Podrick arrive at the siege camp, where Lannister banners fly above the tents. She stops a guard, gives her name, and says she needs to see Jaime Lannister. She tells the man to say she has brought his sword. She is taken to Jaime. When she tells him Sansa Stark is alive and safe, he is visibly surprised. He had believed her dead for years. Brienne explains that she has come to ask the Blackfish and the Tully garrison to march north and help Sansa retake Winterfell from the Boltons. Jaime's orders, however, are to deliver River Run back to the Freys, the reward they were granted after the Red Wedding. For the first time since they parted, their purposes are directly opposed. Brienne reminds him what the Red Wedding truly was and says there is still honor in him. Jaime cuts her off. He is a Lannister, and he will carry out his house's commands. Brienne asks for leave to enter the castle and speak with the Blackfish. Jaime doubts the old man will abandon the siege, but he grants her until dawn. She holds out Oathkeeper, the Valyrian steel sword he once gave her. She has fulfilled the oath they made together, the one sworn to Catelyn Stark. Jaime tells her the sword was always meant to be hers. Before she turns to go, she looks back. If the Blackfish refuses and steel is drawn, they will be enemies again. Jaime nods, understanding, and says he hopes it never comes to that. Brienne carries Sansa Stark's letter inside the castle and meets the Blackfish on the battlements. He still hurls the old names at Jaime, man without honor, oathbreaker. But Brienne explains that Jaime was the one who kept the promise made to Catelyn Stark, the one who armed her and sent her to find the girls. The words make the old man pause. He takes the letter and reads Sansa's plea for help to retake Winterfell. He recognizes her mother's spirit in her, yet he refuses. He has too few men, and he will not abandon the home his family has held for 1,000 years. Later, Jaime is rowed across the river to speak with Edmure Tully, who is kept chained in the Frey camp. Jaime apologizes for the harsh treatment and gives his word that Edmure will be well cared for from now on. Edmure scoffs. The Kingslayer's word is worthless to him. Jaime presses on. Edmure will be reunited with his wife and the son he has never seen, and they can live safely at Casterly Rock. Edmure hears only Lannister blood behind every offer and asks how Jaime can live with himself. He was the groom of the Red Wedding, and though the Lannisters were not there to slaughter his family, the blood is on their hands. Jaime answers that he once watched Catelyn Stark risk everything for her children and saw the same fierce love in his sister. He is doing this for Cersei. If taking River Run is what it requires, he will cut down every man in the castle to get back to her. She is the only person in the world who matters to him. He orders Edmure unchained and sent toward the castle gates under a white flag. Edmure Tully, still the rightful lord, walks to the gatehouse and orders the chains lowered. The portcullis rises with a groan. Men stare in disbelief, but they obey their lord and lay down their swords. Lannister and Frey soldiers pour into the yard behind Jaime. Jaime's first command is quiet. Find the Blackfish. The old man is already in the postern tunnel, helping Brienne and Podrick slip toward the river. Brienne begs him to come north with them to fight for Sansa. He refuses. He ran once from the Red Wedding. He will not run again. She can serve Sansa Stark and her family better than he ever could now. He presses a final gruff blessing on her and disappears back into the shadows. He dies that night. Jaime stands on the battlements in the cold hour before dawn. The castle is his. The victory tastes like ash. Then he sees her. Far down the riverbank, a tall figure in a dark cloak, blonde hair catching the first pale light. Brienne, rowing away with Podrick in a stolen skiff. They had agreed. If the castle did not yield peacefully, they would be enemies again. Yet she is leaving unharmed, and Jaime does not raise the alarm. He does not send a single man after her. Instead, she turns to him, their eyes meeting under the moonlight. Jaime lifts his golden hand in farewell. Brienne raises her own bare hand in answer. No words were passed, yet everything was understood. The day of Cersei's trial arrives under a sky heavy with cloud. In the great sept of Baelor, Margaery stands at her brother's side as Loras confesses his sins to the gathered faithful. Relief washes over her. He is finally free, the charge is lifted. But horror follows when a red-hot iron is brought forward. The sparrow presses it to Loras's forehead, branding the 7-pointed star into his flesh. The scream echoes off the stone. Margaery demands to know why. The High Sparrow answers calmly. Once Cersei's trial ends, Loras may leave. Unease settles in Margaery like a stone. Cersei has not appeared. Word comes that she remains in the Red Keep, and so does Tommen. Margaery understands at once. This is no accident. Panic rises. She begs the High Sparrow to let everyone leave, that something is wrong. He dismisses her fears with a scoff. She grabs Loras and tries to force her way through the doors, but the sparrows close ranks, barring the crowds as their murmurs turn to shouts. Only moments before the end does real fear touch the high sparrow's face. Green wildfire erupts inside the sept, flames roaring hungry and unnatural. The building collapses in a storm of fire and stone. There are no survivors. From her window in the Red Keep, Cersei watches the sept burn to rubble. Smoke rises like a funeral pyre. She smiles. Tommen knows nothing of his mother's plan. A knight brings word of the destruction and offers sympathies. The boy king stares out at the black smoke curling over the city. Unlike Cersei, he does not smile. The knight leaves, and Tommen steps 1 foot onto the window ledge, then the other. He jumps. Cersei had visited a witch when she was a child, and had tried desperately to run from her future predicted so long ago that now rang true. 3 children, 3 deaths, and Cersei left to watch them all fall. Jaime sits at the long table in the Twins, raising a cup with Bronn to the easy victory at River Run. Walder Frey shuffles over, grinning through his wattled neck, and tells Jaime that Tywin would be proud. They have both crushed their enemies. They are both Kingslayers. The word lands like a stone in Jaime's gut. He looks at the old man, at the weasel eyes, the trembling hands that ordered the red wedding, and feels nothing but disgust. He does not want to be like this man. He tells Walder coldly that the Lannisters gave the phrase River Run once, and when they lost it, the Lannisters took it back for them. No praise is needed. He leaves the hall without another word. He rides south hard, the army trailing behind. When the stinking sprawl of King's Landing finally appears, a thin column of smoke still rises from the ruined hill where the great sept once stood. The city is quiet in a way that feels wrong. He hears the news in the yard. Tommen threw himself from the window the same morning the sept burned. His last child is gone. Jaime runs through the corridors until he reaches the throne room. Cersei stands alone beneath the Iron Throne, black mourning gown trailing on the steps, the crown heavy on her golden hair. She turns when she hears him, and for a moment she is the girl he knew at 16, beautiful, fierce, unbreakable. But now he sees the emptiness in her eyes, the hard set of her mouth, the way she ascends the last step and sits on the twisted blades as though she was born for it. His emotions swirl with his love for her and his growing fear of her. He has witnessed her descent in ruthlessness. To see her now sit the Iron Throne gives voice to the dread he has long kept silent. Time has passed since the burning of the sept and Tommen's fall, but the city still smells of ash. Jaime keeps to the edges of rooms now, quieter than he has ever been. Cersei notices. One night in her solar she asks if he is afraid of her. He says no, but the distance between them is undeniable. They speak of Tyrion. He is hand to Daenerys Targaryen, the dragon girl who was once only a rumour across the sea. Now she is a real army marching west. Cersei reminds Jaime that he is the one who opened Tyrion's cell, the one who freed the Kingslayer accused of murdering Joffrey and their father. Now that same brother helps the woman coming to take the throne. Cersei talks of defences, of walls and scorpions and wildfire. Jaime tells her to look at the truth. She rules 3 kingdoms at best, and their children are all gone. What is left worth this fight? He tries to speak of Tommen. She shuts the subject away as if the name itself is poison. Jaime grieves alone. New allies arrive, though they are more allies to Cersei than Jaime. Euron Greyjoy sails into the bay with the Iron Fleet, and strides into the throne room grinning like a wolf. Jaime does not trust him for a moment. The Greyjoys are no better than the Freys. He questions Euron openly. Euron laughs it off, says he was exiled long ago and now commands the fleet himself. He offers Cersei the Ironborn in exchange for one thing, her hand in marriage. Jaime's whole body goes rigid. Cersei refuses at once. But Euron does not look discouraged. He promises to sail away and return with a gift so priceless she will see his worth. He bows with mockery in every line of him and leaves the hall. Jaime watches the doors close behind the Pirate King and feels the walls of the Red Keep pressing closer than ever before. Cersei summons every surviving Lord of the Reach to the throne room. She stands beneath the Iron Throne and speaks plainly. Daenerys Targaryen is the Mad King's daughter, riding with unsullied Dothraki and 3 full-grown dragons. She has already burned cities and lords who refuse to kneel. Unless the realm unites behind the crown, the same will happen here. Lord Randyll Tarly speaks up. Daenerys has the same number of dragons Aegon the Conqueror once used to forge the 7 kingdoms. Cersei answers that Qyburn is building a weapon capable of bringing a dragon down. Later, Jaime meets Randyll Tarly alone in a quiet chamber. He needs to know where the man's loyalty lies. He offers Tarly command of all their armies and, when the war is won, the title of Warden of the South. Tarly hesitates. He has old oaths to House Tyrell and no love for the family that orchestrated the Red Wedding. Jaime presses until Tarly finally nods, reluctant but convinced. Euron Greyjoy strides back into the throne room with the swagger of a man who has conquered the seas. He drags Ellaria Sand and her daughter in chains, then shoves Yara Greyjoy forward as a final prize. He boasts loudly about his victories, aiming most of his barbs at Jaime. Cersei watches from the Iron Throne and agrees to marry Euron once the war is won. Euron turns to Jaime with a grin and promises to bed the Queen soon. Jaime's hand tightens on his sword hilt, rage burning through him, but the hall is full of lords and guards. He can do nothing. That night, Cersei slips into Jaime's chambers. He hesitates at first, the distance between them still fresh, but he gives in. They lie together as they always have. In the morning, while they still share the bed, a knock sounds at the door. Jaime reminds her no one can see them like this. Cersei ignores him, rises naked, and opens the door herself. She is queen now. She does what she pleases. Jaime soon leads the Lannister army south to Highgarden. Olenna Tyrell sits in a room dressed in black, looking out the window, watching the soldiers flood her home. Her own forces have already been defeated in the field. She expected nothing less. Jaime enters alone. They speak calmly at first, acknowledging Daenerys's growing strength and the battles still ahead for Jaime. But Olenna knows why he has come. She guesses at the ways he might end her life, half amused. Jaime offers no cruelty. He sets a small vial on the table, poison, quick and painless. She laughs and takes it. She tells him he truly loves Cersei, and he is a fool for it. Cersei will be the ruin of him. Jaime shrugs, though the words settle heavily. He insists that once peace returns, people will forget the ruthless things Cersei has done. He says it more to convince himself than her. Olenna drinks. She thanks him for the gentle death. She will not want to go the way his son did. Jaime freezes. She explains she had never seen the poison work before and would not have chosen it for Joffrey if she had known how ugly it would be. But it had to be done either way. She could not let her cherished granddaughter marry such a monster. Tell Cersei, she adds, voice steady. Jaime stares at the old woman who murdered his child, hate and disgust twisting his face. He turns and storms from the room, leaving her to die alone. Outside of Highgarden, the day falls, is bright and clear, but no one feels like a victor. Jaime stands with Bronn and young Dickon Tarly among the wagons loaded with Tyrell gold. Dickon keeps his chin high, yet his eyes carry the weight of his first battle. Men he trained with, ate with, laughed with, now dead by his own sword. The moment is broken by a distant rumble that grows into the thunder of thousands of hooves. Dothraki screamers pour over the hill, a red wave under painted banners. Jaime, Bronn and Dickon shout for spears and shields, trying to form a line that is already too late. Bronn tells Jaime to ride for King's Landing now, but Jaime refuses to abandon the army. He still believes they can hold. Then the sky darkens. Drogon breaks through the clouds like a black storm, wings blotting the sun. Jaime looks up and sees a living dragon for the first time in his life. One word from Daenerys, Dracarys, and the front ranks vanish in a wall of flame. Men burn where they stand. The neat Lannister formation collapses under the Dothraki charge. Arrows bounce off dragon scales like rain. Jaime keeps shouting orders, voice cracking, unable to believe what he is seeing. One dragon, but she has three. Bronn races for the Scorpion, the huge dragon-killing crossbow Qyburn built. Jaime fights on foot, cutting down screamers until Dickon drags him clear of a killing blow. From the ridge, Tyrion watches the slaughter he helped plan, face pale, stomach turning at the sight of Lannister crimson, turning to real blood and ash. Bronn reaches the Scorpion and looses the first bolt. It misses Drogon by inches. Daenerys sees the weapon and understands the threat. The second bolt strikes home in the dragon's shoulder. Drogon roars, spirals down, and lands hard in front of the Scorpion. Bronn dives aside as fire turns the machine to kindling. Daenerys dismounts and moves to pull the bolt free. Jaime sees his chance. The Dothraki have torn his army apart. Drogon has burned the rest. Two more dragons wait somewhere above the clouds. This woman will end everything, Cersei, the throne, the only person who has ever truly mattered to him. He snatches a fallen spear and charges. Tyrion sees him coming and screams for him to stop, knowing it is suicide. Jaime cannot hear. Drogon turns, jaws opening, fire gathering in his throat. At the last possible second, Bronn crashes into Jaime and knocks him clear. The blast of flame rolls over them both, close enough to singe hair and hope. Jaime and Bronn crawl out of the river soaked and half drowned, the roar of Drogon still echoing in their ears. Bronn has just knocked him clear of dragonfire for the second time that day, but Jaime barely registers the rescue. He stares at the blackened field, the wagons reduced to glowing skeletons. She has three, he mutters, voice hollow with disbelief. The world he knew has ended in one afternoon. Dread settles heavy in his chest as he rides back to King's Landing, knowing he must tell Cersei that every story of the last Targaryen and her dragons is true, and worse. He finds her in her solar. He describes the Dothraki fighting like it is a game, the single dragon burning 1,000 wagons in minutes. His words paint the picture clearly, but Cersei refuses to see it. She scoffs and suggests Tyrion might still talk sense into his new queen. The name stops Jaime cold. He has not yet told her Olenna's dying confession. He tells her then. She must know. It was never Tyrion that killed Joffrey. Cersei's anger flares first at the thought of the old woman dying peacefully in her own chair. Jaime's own rage rises to meet it. Cersei was ready to murder their brother for a crime he never committed. They stand facing each other across the room, voices sharp, old wounds torn open. Neither will yield. Bronn drags Jaime down into the old tunnels beneath the keep, claiming they need extra sparring now that real war has come. Jaime follows, tired and protesting, until Tyrion steps from the shadows. It is the first time the brothers have faced each other since the night Jaime unlocked Tyrion's cell and set him free. Bronn mutters something about air and disappears. Jaime can only stare. Tyrion speaks first. He commends Jaime for luring the Unsullied into attacking Casterly Rock, a calculated feint, while the Lannister forces turned south and seized Highgarden instead. But Jaime barely hears the praise. He says the name Tywin like it is poison. How can Tyrion stand here after what he did? He had killed their father, only minutes after Jaime released him. Tyrion answers quietly. Their father was going to hang him for a crime he never committed. Jaime already knows this. Olenna made certain of it with her dying breath. Still, the knowledge sits between them like a blade. Tyrion changes the subject. Daenerys will win this war. Jaime saw one dragon and a fraction of her strength. The Unsullied were not even there, nor the other two beasts. Any soldier worth the name can see the numbers do not lie. Jaime gives the answer that will forever lead the two at odds. Cersei will never bend the knee. Tyrion does not ask for surrender. He asks for a truce. Jaime scoffs, knowing such an ask is impossible. But Tyrion is persistent. Jon Snow has come south with tales of the dead marching behind a Night King. If the dead win, thrones and crowns mean nothing. They need proof before Cersei will listen. Jaime carries the message to the throne room. Cersei laughs at how far the world has fallen since their father died, but she agrees to the meeting. Her quick acceptance unsettles him. Then she places both hands on her stomach and tells him why. She is pregnant. Jaime's face flickers through shock, joy, fear, doubt. He asks who she will name as the father. She says his name without hesitation. Jaime. A faint smile touches his mouth, but it never reaches his eyes. The realm will never accept it. Cersei shrugs. She always believed in her father's words. The lion does not concern himself with the opinions of sheep. They embrace, and for a moment the coming storm feels far further than it really is. The truce holds, thin as parchment, and Jaime enlightens himself by walking among Daenerys' armies. The Unsullied stand in perfect rows, silent and identical. Nothing like the wild Dothraki who ride circles around the camp screaming for blood. He has not seen the other two dragons yet, but he remembers the sky turning black above the Reach and knows what one can do. They gather in the ruined dragon pit under a cold, clear sky. Jon Snow, Sandor Clegane, Tormund, Tyrion, Varys, Theon, Euron, Jorah, and Brienne of Tarth. The last time Jaime saw Brienne, she was rowing away into the dawn after River Run. He had let her go without raising the alarm. Their eyes meet across the cracked stone. Neither speaks, but the group is quiet. They are waiting for Daenerys. Then Drogon drops from the clouds like a falling fortress, wings blotting the sun. Daenerys dismounts. Cersei's face flickers, only for an instant, before the mask slides back into place. They are here for proof. Sandor Clegane drags forward a heavy crate, grumbling the whole way. He kicks the lid off and steps back fast. Silence. Then an inhuman shriek splits the air. The white bursts out, all rotting flesh and blue eyes, faster than anything dead should move. It lunges, claws reaching. until Sandor cuts it down with a single swing of dragon glass. The dragon pit is utterly still. Cersei and Jaime stare at the twitching corpse, horror plain on both their faces. Daenerys speaks quietly. She did not believe it either, until she saw it with her own eyes. Even her armies, dragons, unsullied, Dothraki, cannot stand against what is coming. Jaime finds his voice. "How many?" he asks. "At least 100,000, she says. His eyes widen. Every battle he has ever fought, every plan he has ever drawn, belonged to a world without dragons, without Dothraki on Westerosi soil, without Unsullied, and without an army of the dead that wants every living soul. Euron Greyjoy turns on his heel and walks out, announcing that this is the only thing in the world that truly frightens him. Cersei calls him coward, but does not argue. She seems to share his sentiments, though remains seated herself. She offers the truce. The North will march against the dead, and the South will stand aside, provided Jon Snow stays neutral when the war for the Iron Throne begins again. Bastard or not, as Ned Stark's son, she trusts that he will remain true to his word. Jon is quiet for a moment, having not yet pledged full allegiance to Daenerys, but ultimately, Jon refuses Cersei's request. Cersei's smile is thin. Geography will be in her favor then. The dead will reach the north first. She will deal with whatever is left once the long night ends. Jaime's jaw tightens. Cersei saw what he saw. The white was terrifying, not just in its being, but in the doom it promised to every living soul. And there is an army with countless numbers coming for them all. Brienne catches Jaime and tries to reason with him. Jaime reminds her that they serve completely different houses, but Brienne pushes him. He is the only one that can get through to Cersei. Jaime takes Brienne's words, and he does try to further reason with Cersei, but he fails. It is Tyrion that sees her. In the meeting, though Cersei's eyes are alight with hate, the meeting proves successful. It is shocking to everyone, but it was that Tyrion realized Cersei was pregnant. Her one redeeming quality was that she loved her children, and it was her unborn child that swayed her. Not only would she accept the truce, but she would send her own troops up north to fight amongst them. Jaime is relieved his sister has given in to reason and begins to prepare, but Cersei comes to him in private. Everything she had agreed to were mere words. She has no intention of keeping the oath. She said what she had to ensure the survival of House Lannister. Jaime is dumbfounded, not only to break such an oath, but they had both seen the white, both understood what would come to them, the fates of every person in King's Landing. Jaime points out every flaw in her plan, but Cersei has planned without him. The gold from High Garden has bought them a new army of 20,000 men. Euron Greyjoy did not leave the dragon pit in fear. He went to get them. Jaime stares at Cersei. He has always known her to be cruel and ruthless, but this has spiraled. He does not recognize her. The betrayal stings, but Jaime refuses to break his pledge. He has been a man without honor for far too long. He will go north, despite her other plans. The mountain, lingering by, steps in his path. Jaime stares at Cersei. He dares her to give the order. She doesn't. She only watches as the last person she has ever truly cared for leave her. As he rides out of King's Landing, a drop falls on his hand. Jaime looks up. It's begun to snow. Winter has come. Jaime rides through the gates alone, snow thick on his cloak, no banners, no escort. He dismounts in the outer yard, pulls the white cloak from his shoulders, and for a few moments no one notices him. The greatest swordsman in Westeros is just another tired traveller in a crowd of thousands. Then he feels the stare. Bran sits beneath the weirwood, pale and still. Their eyes meet. Bran has been waiting. He knew Jaime was coming. Jaime's breath catches. He has no words. Daenerys summons him to the great hall. She stands before him as the daughter of the king he killed. Jaime speaks plainly. Cersei lied at the dragon pit. Euron did not flee. He sailed to bring the Golden Company south. No Lannister army is coming north, but Jaime is here to keep the promise he made. Daenerys does not trust a word. Tyrion tries to vouch for his brother. She silences him with a look. Sansa sits beside her, voice cold. This is the man who attacked her father in the streets of King's Landing. Jaime answers that he was protecting his house. The things we do for love, Bran says from the back of the hall, quiet, terrible. The same words Jaime whispered the day he pushed a boy from a tower. He turns, face drained of colour, and meets Bran's empty, knowing eyes. Brienne steps forward. She speaks of the night the bloody mummers took them, of Jaime stepping between her and the unthinkable, even after she had dragged him in chains. That was the night he had lost his hand. She speaks of the oath they both swore to Catelyn Stark. They both kept their word. Sansa listens, then nods. Jon Snow gives his agreement. Daenerys' face stays hard, but she yields. Grey Worm places a sword in Jaime's hand. He is allowed to stay. Jaime finds Bran alone later. His words are sincere, his heart is heavy. He wants to be a man of honour. He tells Bran he is sorry. Bran looks at him, acknowledging that Jaime was not sorry at the time, but Bran understands he was protecting his family. Jaime looks at the young man that speaks with centuries of wisdom. He is genuine in his wonder. Why didn't Bran tell anyone that it was Jaime who pushed him? But Bran said there was no point to it now. Jaime is here. He wants to fight alongside them. Jaime asks about after the battle. What will happen then? But Bran counters. How can Jaime be so sure there will be an afterwards? Jaime and Tyrion walk the snowy yard together. Two Lannisters no one is glad to see. They are free to move, but every stare is cold. Jaime asks about Daenerys, notes the chill between her and Tyrion after Cersei's betrayal. Tyrion only looks at his brother, tired and sad. They are both caught in the same web their sister spun. Now there is only the war ahead. Jaime leaves him and climbs the inner wall. Brienne is there, checking the defences. They speak of battle lines and weak points for a while, voices low and practical. Then Brienne stops. She asks why there is no smirk, no cutting remark, no usual Lannister arrogance. Jaime hesitates. Humbleness has never come naturally for him. He tells her he is not the swordsman he once was. He wants to fight under her command. Brienne stares. The Jaime Lannister she knows, golden, mocking, certain of his own greatness, is asking to stand in her shadow. She can only manage a small nod before turning back to her duties. Later that night, Jaime and Tyrion sit alone by a low fire. Two brothers who never thought they would end up back at Winterfell, waiting for the end of the world. They laugh once or twice, quiet, bitter, at the thought of Tywin looking down on this. Then the laughter fades. Tomorrow they fight or die. The whole castle carries the same weight. Brienne and Podrick come in from the cold, seeking warmth. Jaime drags two more chairs to the hearth. Podrick pours wine. Tyrion passes cups. Davos slips in quietly. Then Tormund barrels through the door, already half drunk and loud with tales. Tormund spots Brienne and makes his usual attempt, reminding her this could be their last night alive. Jaime keeps his head down, but his eyes flick up, amused despite himself. Brienne's face stays stone. The room settles while Tormund tells the story of the giant who nursed him like a babe, then downs an entire horn of ale in one go, most of it running down his beard. No one laughs hard, but the corners of mouths lift. They have all seen far worse. The talk turns. Tormund learns Brienne has never been knighted. Women are not allowed. Jaime goes very still. Any knight can make a knight. He stands, draws his sword, and calls her name. Brienne scoffs, thinking it a jest, until she sees his face in the firelight. He is serious. She takes a knee, and in the firelight of Winterfell, surrounded by the unlikely gathering of Tyrion, Podrick, Tormund, Davos, and Jaime Lannister, she is knighted Sir Brienne of Tarth, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. The long night comes. The Dothraki head out first, their swords alighted with fire from the Lord of Light. But it is not long before their flames are extinguished. Jaime is still at Winterfell, only able to look on as the fires die out. And then the dead comes in endless waves. The black sky is filled with screams from both dead and alive. Jaime wishes to stay the later. He fights alongside Brienne, saving her from a trampling. It's dark, it's cold, it's despairing, and seemingly endless. Until the sky comes alight again. Daenerys and Jon Snow, each riding their own dragons. Jaime cannot stop to admire the beasts, only appreciate that he is now fighting alongside them, not doomed against them. After so long, the Unsullied hold the front lines, while Jaime follows the others in, preparing to close the gate. It has been fortified with a moat of fire, though the fire has not yet come. Melisandre continues her prayers to the Lord of Light, growing more desperate at each passing second. Her prayers are answered. The flames go up, and the dead are stopped. The living breathe, but it cannot last long. In a terrifying turn, the dead begins to lay themselves across the fire, stiffening it. A bridge of bodies is made, and Winterfell's walls rain arrows in attempts to stop them. They climb the walls. They charge the gates. Death surrounds them all. Jaime fights alongside Brienne, though every way they turn comes endless, crushing waves of whites. And then the dreaded turn of the night came. The Night King raised up every warrior from the living's side, every Dothraki, wildling, unsullied, and any other unnamed soldier that had been killed even moments before, opened their eyes. The piercing blue gave light into the long night, though it was none to be comforted for. With a single wave of his hand, the dead rise anew, stronger, more endless than before. It is that of nightmares. Certain death closes in on Jaime. He looks at the whites, their clothes the same as his now allies. He sees his fate. The Night King closes in on Godswood, where Bran waits. He knows he is coming. Jon is fighting an impossible battle to reach him first. But he doesn't. The Night King and Bran are mere feet away from each other. It is not Jon Snow to save Bran. It is Arya. Wielding a dagger of dragon glass, she drives it into the Night King's chest. He shatters. The army collapses. Every white drops lifeless to the ground, the silence sudden and deafening. The dead are finally laid to rest. Dawn creeps over the horizon, pale and cold. Jaime stands among the survivors, bloodied and breathing hard, and looks at Brienne. They have lived to see another morning. The battle has won, but the victory is bleak. Jaime stands with Brienne and the others, looking over all who have fallen. But it was not for nothing. It was never for nothing. Spirits are lifted in the great hall. Brienne and Jaime sit together, Jaime pouring Brienne a rare cup of wine. She grants him a small smile. Tyrion joins them, and the three play a game of truth. The hall is loud with drunken laughter at this point, but Tyrion grows bold. He guesses that Brienne is a virgin. Brienne is unamused, raising from the table to excuse herself. Jaime follows her. Brienne goes to her room and only has a moment for herself before there is a knock on the door. Jaime Lannister waits outside, 2 goblets in hand. They never finish the game of truth, but they don't get to continue the game before Jaime begins complaining about how hot it is in Brienne's room. The fire in the fireplace is too large for the space. He then begins to unbutton his shirt, struggling with his one hand. Annoyed, Brienne pushes his hand away and does it for him. He reaches for hers. She asks what he's doing, and he tells her promptly, taking off her shirt. She hesitates. What Tyrion had guessed in their game of truth was true. Jaime believes he is worthy. He kisses her. And there, in the firelight of Winterfell after the Great War has been won, they lay together. And this is where I must interfere. Up until this point, I've tried my best to be faithful to the show's depiction, but there are 2 versions of Jaime Lannister in the world. One still unwritten. The last time we had seen him in the beloved books, he had received a letter from King's Landing, from Cersei. He had grown aware that her paranoia was heightened, her dismissals, her ruthlessness. Jaime couldn't say the words aloud, but the thoughts were undeniable. Her madness, his flesh and blood, his love for so long, was beginning to mirror the Mad King more and more. He had chosen to ignore her manipulations for so long, but he could not have killed the Mad King only to make way for the Mad Queen. He burns the letter from Cersei. He looks at Brienne, at Oathkeeper leaning against the wall where she always keeps it. He gave her that sword years ago, the night he lost everything he thought made him a man. She has carried it ever since, carried their shared oath, carried the better part of him. He will carry his own now. He pulls the blanket higher over her shoulder, careful not to wake her. He will stay here in the north for now and stand beside the woman who believes honor is something worth keeping. For the first time in his life, Jaime Lannister is exactly where he chooses to be. He will do his best to live with a clear conscience in his heart. He will do his best to be a man with honor. There is more life yet to Jaime Lannister, but as it stands now, this is his story thus far. My hope is that you are now asleep. May tomorrow come easy to you. Good night.